Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend,
Callum.
Callum. Great to see you, dude. Great to see you. So today I'm just going to pass over to my good buddy here, and he's just going to explain what movies we're going to be talking about today, because as you've seen by the title, it's our second installment of our Pixar series, Callum. So off to you, mate.
The Movie Mates series arc of Pixar.
Awesome.
I've always wanted to sort of knock a few of these off my bucket list. I had, in some cases, unfortunately, seen some of these movies before. So today we're going to be talking about The Incredibles, Cars, and Ratatouille.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Which my mispronunciation apparently is made fun of often. But it's just because we live in. It's just because we live in Northern Ireland where people say ratatouille. Like so
true.
I sort of get made fun of for that.
But yeah, as Callum said, those are the three movies we're going to be talking about today. Thank you for everyone who supported the last installment of our Pixar series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on these films down below. And yeah, did you want to crack right on in with our first film?
Yeah, sure. So we're starting with The Incredibles.
Yep. Awesome. Can't wait.
A fantastic film.
Oh, so good, man. It's so good.
Do you have any opening thoughts on it?
Generally, like, I just have so much nostalgia for this film. This is probably one of the first Pixar films I'd seen, because it sort of came out around the time when we were in our youth. So no, this is just so good, man, isn't it? It's just awesome.
Indeed. I would say my favorite aspect of the film is actually the beginning of it. This sort of creates an anachronistic perspective on the golden age of heroes, and like it really reminds me of Batman the Animated Series, in that that sort of looked like a used universe, like a 1940s retroactive the retroactive placement of superheroes in like a different decade.
Oh yeah, man, totally. Like the Glory Days segment of the film is definitely my favorite. I would just love a spin-off movie just set in the Glory Days, because that is just like that whole first, what is it, like 20 minutes of the movie. It's just perfect. I actually love the original costumes as well. I think they're all done excellently.
Yeah, I think that the new updated versions, like the red, orange, black, they're a bit boring for me.
They're a bit bland, aren't they?
Yeah, I like a bit of diversity even in family costumes. I mean, we sort of see that with the Fantastic Four. Like, they're able to at least put a bit of a personal spin on each one.
Oh yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. But I just wanted to ask you, like, there's no real, I suppose, set time frame for when the Glory Days are set. I assume it's like late 40s, I'd imagine.
Yeah, like they make reference to it throughout the films, and you see like the dates on newspapers and stuff, and it's in and around the 40s and the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that the part with the kids is set in the 50s, and yeah, I think that the 40s are the time place for
that's awesome,
the
man,
Glory Days.
It's so unusual for that to be a time setting, especially for a superhero film. So it's really refreshing, actually.
I wish more of them did that, honestly.
Yeah,
like even seeing, say the proposed Daredevil set in the 60s, I would have loved.
Man, that'd be class. That'd be so good.
So very early on, we get the introduction of the villain of the piece, Syndrome,
Awesome.
introduced as Bob's biggest fan, Buddy. And Bob is a complete douche to him, like a terrible dude.
I mean, I feel bad, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the second time that he meets him, he's sort of like, getting in the way of justice prevailing. He's being a bit irritating. But the first time, all he's showing is his admiration for Bob, and he boots him out of car.
Yeah, like you gotta feel bad for Buddy. He's made his own Mr. Incredible suit and stuff, and he's actually a genius. Like, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's creating bleeding edge tech, and like Bob's just like, oh, what a dumb kid. Like, yeah, Bob is thick as pig shit throughout this film. Like, he's one of the dumbest Pixar characters we've ever seen.
I actually think like even especially at the start of the film, because there is I can get why he would be frustrated at Buddy, especially the second interaction. But the first interaction,
it's very innocent, and Bob's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, like I saw like a meme maybe like a year ago, someone had compared like Mr. Incredible and Buddy to the Paul brothers. I thought they looked quite similar.
Yeah, I see that.
I
I
see
definitely
that.
see that.
Yeah, for sure. But how old is Mr. Incredible supposed to be then in like the glory days, like early 20s, mid 20s?
Yeah, I guess late 20s. Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose it's all dependent on how old he is throughout the rest of the film, because I guess the rest of the film takes place maybe 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And he's having a midlife crisis, so he must be like 45 or so. So yeah, maybe he's just like a 25-year-old tree. Like, I don't know. He doesn't look 25.
No, he should know better than to kick Buddy out of the car.
100%. So I would say that this is probably the most tonally dark Pixar film, even as it deals with suicide and explicit murder.
Oh yeah, big time, man, big time.
Like it's quite rough to watch, honestly.
It is. You know, I actually didn't really comprehend the scene, the sort of attempted suicide scene towards the start of the film, and it actually is really integral to the plot. It sort of leads on to like Mr. Incredible and the supers being sort of like hidden from society, because he does receive a lot of criticism for that. Like, I wanted to ask you, like, how do you feel about Mr. Incredible, like saving a man about to kill himself? Like, it is, as you said, it is a very dark thing to include in a Pixar film.
Well, I mean, you have the right to do what you want with your own body, so him not allowing that person to do so, I think is breach of his rights. How do you feel?
Yeah, same, mate, same. Like, yeah, he does receive a lot of criticism in the film. I suppose generally the supers do. So yeah, as you said perfectly, man, it was a very dark element for the film for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like only on this. I mean, I've just started a point, and I realize it's not really relevant to what we're talking about.
Go for it.
This happens a lot, where like I try to make it sound like I'm naturally speaking to you, but I'm just reading from notes.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
Well, as you said that you sort of miss things on first watch, like coming back and watching it with sort of a bit more perspective and, ability to be a bit more attentive to detail. I never actually realized that whenever they were like scouting out the supers, they were actually after Frozone and not Mr. Incredible.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like when Mirage is looking for supers to kill, they're actually after Frozone, which I'd never realized before.
That's really interesting, because like you sort of see, and I suppose we'll get into this later as well, but we sort of see that Syndrome has been like going after the supers one by one. Like I always thought it was curious to me that like obviously like I missed it in the first viewing, but like how if it was the case that Frozone was like the next super to be targeted, like why were Mr. Incredible and Frozone like the last ones to be targeted? Because like you see like other heroes that are in the film, sort of like Gamma Jack and stuff and Gazer Beam, like they seem way more powerful than Mr. Incredible and Frozone. I just thought it was really curious.
Yeah, I guess maybe just the Mr. Incredible and Frozone were more culturally important, so the government tried harder to hide them better.
Yeah,
so they were the hardest ones to find. But if Bob hadn't been such an idiot and like so arrogant, they never would have found him probably.
I know, man, and yeah, and that's a really interesting detail you mentioned there, bro, because Frozone's one of the best characters in the film, so it would have been interesting to see like how it would have went with him instead of Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, I don't know why. With like sort of my childhood nostalgia and like my memory of films, I always in my mind remember characters being in movies so much more than they are. Like Frozone is in like 3 scenes of the movie, really. Like he's hardly in it, but I think of him as such an integral piece.
Oh yeah. I think it's maybe the charisma behind Samuel L. Jackson. And I suppose if you want to mention like the voice acting, like it's just superb here, isn't it? It's just so good.
Yeah, I would say this is the biggest example of like, getting big stars to do your movie and it paying off, because I think it's rare, which we'll talk about later.
I know where you're going with that. I think.
I hope you know.
I think sorry, Mick. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, it's just that I think the standout for me would be Holly Hunter. She's just got such an iconic voice, hasn't she?
Yeah, I agree with you. And after seeing Raising Arizona last year, hearing her voice takes on a whole new meaning to me.
Do you like? Are you a fan of Raising Arizona? Yeah.
Oh, it was one of the best films I've ever seen. It
Awesome.
jumped right into the top 10 as soon as I saw it.
Awesome. Is that Nick Cage?
That is thankfully Nick Cage in his best performance of his career.
We should definitely review that someday. That'd be fun.
Oh, 100%. We can do it under Abduction.
Oh, class. I actually look forward to that. I didn't know that's what it was about, so cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it's Holly Hunter is a police officer and she marries Nick Cage, who is a criminal. And then they can't have children together, so they kidnap a baby.
Oh, that's actually a very interesting plot, it seems. It seems cool.
Oh, it's top notch, top tier. So Helen accuses Bob of trying to relive the glory days, but looking back, it seems like he got a lot more shit in the superhero days than he did, admiration.
Yeah, it does because like it seems like all the public just turned their back on Mr. Incredible completely.
Yeah, no, he's saying like, oh, I need to go somewhere, which is his wedding, and they're just like, but you're not gonna help us. It's like you're the police.
Yeah.
You're being paid to do this.
I know. Like I suppose that sort of like reflects the society in this film, like that once they become sort of reliant on the supers, but then when the supers are like taken away, it's sort of like they do like resent them for that. So it is really interesting and like I don't know, I do sort of agree. Yeah, I do agree with you, and it actually is sort of similar to American Beauty in the sense that both Lester and Mr. Incredible having a midlife crisis and stuff. So
Yeah,
and they actually have very similar jobs, I think, as well.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And as you said, Bob is going through a midlife crisis, so he obviously jumps at the chance to get back into the hero work when Mirage offers him the job. But not for 1 second does he question it, because he doesn't even think, oh, well, for her to know where I live and my name, she'll have been stalking me. And that doesn't even go through his mind. Like, he's just so dumb.
Yeah, and like, doesn't she send him like an iPad that like blows up or something?
Yeah. I mean, he nearly sets his whole house on fire just because he wants some of that hero action.
Oh man, actually, genuinely, my favorite scene in the film is like when he like looks at all his achievements in his room and stuff. That is just so good. I love that.
Oh yeah,
just
beautiful.
The scene we're talking about, so good. The score is generally
Yeah.
amazing in this film, isn't it? Like the jazz.
Oh, incredible! Yeah,
So
one of the best we've seen.
Oh yeah, big time.
I'd say especially like the opening and end credits. It's very like
Yeah.
James Bond,
Oh, it is,
and sort of the visuals are very Justice League, the animated series.
completely.
So I'm a huge fan.
Me too.
So the real main point of the film is that Syndrome is trying to lure supers to his jungle island to murder them with a robot.
So dark.
And I don't really see how murdering the supers in the jungle with a very unique robot is more subtle than a bullet to the head.
Yeah, that is so true. Like perhaps the bullet couldn't. Like I can understand if there's exceptions to certain supers. Like Mr. Incredible probably can't be killed by a bullet, but I do agree
Yeah.
with you. Like he's definitely not subtle about it. Like, and also Mr. Incredible is told that the island is called like No Manison Island, which is like is that not like no man is an island? So like that sounds a bit sinister.
Yeah, so like I kind of understand I guess he's having superheroes fight his robots so that he can level them up so that they can eventually fight Mr. Incredible, because that's the only superhero he has actual disdain for. Like that's who he wants to get his revenge on. But I mean, do you really need to test out your robot to know that it should be like laser vision proof? Like just do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like why do you need to actually kill someone with laser vision to know that?
Also, like, couldn't you just like transport the robot to like his workplace and just kill him there? Like, he wouldn't be expecting it because he knows that he's gonna be fighting robots. So just kill him in his workplace. It's fine.
Yeah, you've given him time to like suit up and prepare. Like, yeah, it's just like so many levels of stupidity.
But I actually really enjoy the action with the robot. To be honest, I think it's really well done, and I actually really like the design of it. It is quite cliche, like but it does. I do like it, and like there is some like it's not necessarily scary scenes, but like there are some like pretty grueling like action scenes in there and stuff, and it does sort of make you think like this thing probably could kill Mr. Incredible. So it is. I
Yeah.
enjoyed
Bob is so dumb. I refuse to believe that he is the first to have defeated the robot.
it.
Like, he's the only one that realizes, like, you can just avoid the camera.
Yeah. Man, that is so true, actually. Yeah. Like, Gazer Beam. Like, I was always confused by that as a kid, because it seems like his body was like frozen or something, and then like he had sort of carved out Kronos in like the wall or something that tips off Mr. Incredible. But I don't know. Can you shed any light on that?
I mean, I don't think his body was frozen. I think he had just decayed from being in the cave for years.
Maybe. But like, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting plot point, because like, as you said, there's bound to be other supers who could have defeated the robot, like, for sure.
Admit, like, maybe they did and then they leveled it up, but I mean, you really don't need a like, to send it to their workplace, send an assassin. Like, if they're trying to hide, like, they're not going to use their superpowers anyway.
Yeah, true.
I'm just embarrassed. I mean, it's a near perfect film. Like, I really don't want to criticize it like this, but that's just levels of dumb that I can't accept.
Love it, man. Love it.
So closer to the middle of the film, we're introduced to the greatest character in American fiction, Edna Maude. Yes.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. Your impression is actually awesome. And actually, that could pass for Edna Maude. She's voiced by Brad Bird, isn't she? Right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Exceptionally, she is voiced by the director, and I love that so much.
Me too.
I have to give full credit to Brad Bird, because he directed the two best Pixar films, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, Ratatouille being another one. Yeah.
Indeed, sir.
Awesome. But yeah, Edna just has some of the most iconic lines. I think the no capes is actually really brutal. Like, that's a really brutal montage of death.
Yeah, and incredible foreshadowing for the grisly end that Syndrome meets.
Oh yeah, definitely. And actually, it makes me sort of curious as to why, like, Syndrome not necessarily would kill Edna, but like you'd imagine she has some supers that would like come to her from time to time, like if she's trying to keep the business,
Oh, you're saying that are you saying that he should have killed Edna to avoid her making super suits?
Well, perhaps that, or like even like sort of monitor her activity just in case, because Mr. Incredible has kept contact with her, so I would have thought other supers would have done as well.
Yeah, I mean, Syndrome seems to have all the resources in the world to find people. I mean, if he's able to find like governmentally hidden superheroes, he can probably find Edna Maude.
Edna Maude. I love that, man.
I would say that this is the most memed movie of all time.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Edna. Like, every scene is just iconic, isn't it?
No, but even like coincidence, I think not.
Yeah, man. I totally forgot about. Like, I know that this isn't even like a memed line, but I just like when Mr. Incredible just looks at his watch before his wedding. He's like, "Yeah, I still got time. I just love that."
I mean, you say that like every time that we hang out. If I say like, "Do you want to go do this?" You just say that.
Yeah, I still got time. Love that.
I mean, it's just because it is so culturally significant, this film, and I love that you're just able to quote lines and people actually understand.
Me too. Coincidence? I think not. That is iconic. I forgot about that.
Completely. So Helen seems suspicious that Bob is acting different, and starts to suspect that he's having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
But the one phone call that she intercepts is like the least sexual, innocuous phone call I've ever heard. It was like, "Oh, when can you come?" And he's like, "I'll be there tomorrow." And she's like, "Cool, see you." And he's like, "Oh, I'm going on a business trip." How is that a suspicious phone call? I just don't understand.
Yeah, like there's no sexual tension in that phone call whatsoever.
Yeah, I like, of all the things to get suspicious about, be suspicious about him like working out and getting a sports car. But like the thing that really tips her over the edge is like, "I'll see you tomorrow, bye."
Yeah, I know. Like, not to bring up American Beauty again, but like it is quite similar now that I think about it. The sports car, like the working out montage, it is quite similar actually. But
the question is, how old is Mirage? Is she secretly 17?
How old do you think like Mirage is? Like, imagine.
I assume like in her 30s.
Yeah, probably. But
fingers crossed.
yeah, I hope so, man. Hope so. But yeah, one thing I sort of wanted to mention was like I actually love the montage of like Bob getting his life back together and stuff, and I like even the score and that, like we mentioned, the score is just fantastic. And actually, one of the more underrated things about the film is sort of like the hidden like metaphors and stuff in there, because like all the families, like all their powers sort of represent their personalities. Bob is like this, like the stereotypical like strong like like backbone of the family, like Miss Elastigirl. Helen is like, she can like stretch and like bring everyone on
adapt to
situations. Dash is like got speed because like he's a kid. And Violet is shy, so invisibility. I just like that.
And Jack lights on fire because he's going to hell. Moving on.
Yeah, that for sure.
Okay, the one thing that I am happy about in this film more than anything is that they didn't waste time like keeping sorry, not Sinestro. Sorry, that's from Green Lantern. Syndrome's secret identity a mystery. I'm glad they just revealed it as soon as he appeared.
Yeah,
because I really hate when something's that obvious and they just don't come right out and say it.
Completely. Syndrome's voiced by Jason Lee from Alvin and the Chipmunks, right?
Is he? I didn't know that.
So. But no, like I suppose even the characters of Buddy and Syndrome do look quite similar. So yeah, I do agree. Like I'm glad they didn't sort of hold on to that plot line.
Yeah, I mean, I've written sort of one of the weirder sentences I've ever written. Sticky balls are a really inventive form of subduing someone.
Are really a what form of subduing someone?
It's really inventive, don't you think? I don't think we've really seen that as like a trap in a film before.
Yeah, it's inventive and effective. It works.
Yeah,
definitely does.
I do think that this is probably like the darkest and most complex villain plan that we've seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. It actually is really like I actually quite like sort of like that whole plot about like Syndrome killing off the supers and stuff, because it is dark, and this film, it does work for both kids and adults alike, really, doesn't it? There's things that adults can enjoy and pick up on, and for instance, like us looking back on the film now, like we've picked up on details that we might not have necessarily picked up on in our youth. So like you said, yeah, it is dark and it works.
I mean, like, for a standard Pixar film, usually the villain's just like a bit of a dick. Like in a regular Pixar film, like Mr. Incredible would be the villain, because he's just a bit of a dick. But in this film, they have an actual like murderer who plans to like potentially like genocide a city with a massive robot.
I know. Like it is really interesting as well, because like, which is curious because Syndrome as a villain of a Pixar film like gets a lot of screen time compared to other villains, which I thought was unusual, and I was refreshed with that. Like it was good.
I mean, Syndrome is meant to be like a world-class genius, but not once does he sit there and contemplate like maybe the people in the city will be a bit suspicious about where this robot came from. It's not an alien. Like you can't say, oh, it came from a different planet. Someone built it, and they will find out that he did it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Just yeah, people probably will pick up on the coincidence that both the robot and Syndrome arrive in the city at the same time.
Yeah, it's more than a little suspicious. I think
it is. Like I don't understand why Syndrome just. I know he has to get revenge on Mr. Incredible, but like he's clearly a genius, and just sell your inventions, like your 0-point energy gizmos, to the government. Like you can make a lot of buck off that.
Yeah, I think he used it to amass power, but I mean, yeah, just use it to amass wealth. Like, usually the best revenge isn't physical violence; it's just proving to the person that you're better than them. Yeah. And I think if he wasn't a murderer, he'd be better than Mr. Incredible in every conceivable way.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask.
I mean, Mr. Incredible is probably a murderer, not gonna like.
The Incredibles are murderers as well. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I've written like those kids killed so many people in that jungle.
Yeah, it doesn't Dash like just kill a guy outright, like you just crash into a mountain.
And yeah, like he sort of like fakes one into crashing into a mountain, but then at one point, like he sort of like pulls back a tree and then flips it into their ship, and just like 4 people just explode.
One thing I sort of wanted to ask you was like, the film never really expands upon where the supers came from or where they get their abilities from, and I just wanted to ask you, like, do you have any theories about that? Because I think a lot of people thought, like, do you know who the Super Carlin brothers are, the Pixar YouTubers?
I do not.
No, they do like film theories, and they had sort of suspected that it was the government that gave the supers the powers, which I actually think would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes much more sense than like just random mutation, because then it wouldn't be a given that your kids have powers. So yeah, it must be something in their genetics. So yeah, they're probably related like a few generations back to like government experimentation or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting, man, because I sort of expected a potential, like, sort of like maybe a potential twist with, like, it turns out like Syndrome is like a super, but his ability is like intelligence. But that could be the case, I suppose, but it's not really into that.
Yeah, like technopathy. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. Well, we're always looking for like an extra layer to add plot wise, or like what they should have taken out. I have plenty to say about what should be taken out in Cars, let's say.
Me too.
Most of it.
But to be fair, like this most of it, this film doesn't really need an extra layer. Like, like, it is quite intricate and stuff, the whole plot. So now this film works definitely.
Yeah. So, as I said, we see the kids and the adults fighting a lot of people in the jungle, and I'm just astounded by the number of people that signed up to be goons. Like, I really don't think you could find that many people just willing to kill for you.
I know. Like, they must be paid a lot of money.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it seems like they have a very high likelihood of dying.
Yeah, most of them do, don't they? And they're all, like, to be honest, most of them are evil because they're all just willing to kill kids.
Yeah, and they're all like, sort of like clinking their coffee cups together, like watching the destruction of a city.
Man, see when, like, they're all like partying in the RV, and then, like, Mr. Incredible, like, catches a cork. I just love that, man. That is just brilliant. They're all just dead,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I really kind of wish that the film had just been reworked to be a bit more Pixar-like, where it sort of has its final battle in sort of a more localized area. Like, I sort of wish that it had been retooled to end on the island. I think that would have been a bit more fitting.
That would have been cool.
Because sort of like every time I go to watch The Incredibles, the one thing that holds me back is like, I find like the final battle in the city just a bit dull.
Yeah, like, the only thing I could criticize the film's final battle on is the animation for the city isn't great. It's very bland and grey, and you can tell, like, it's very cut and paste, throughout the city. So I think you're 100%. You've hit the nail on the head there. Like, I think an action scene in the island would have been awesome.
I'm just wondering, character-wise, why would someone call themselves Syndrome, which means like like an illness?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, did you think it just
why would anyone
cool?
call themselves Mr. Incredible?
I mean, I think that's just arrogance, which is very consistent with his character.
Yeah, true. Yeah, like Frozen and Elastigirl work. Mr. Incredible and Syndrome I don't think they work.
Yeah, it's kind of just a mixture of arrogance and stupidity.
Yeah, for sure. But I saw something it was actually the Super Carlin brothers did a video, and they said, but like the director or the writers called Mr. Incredible Bob because it stands for like best of the best. I don't know if that would. I don't know.
That sounds like bullshit.
I think I think it's interesting if it is true, but it's probably lies. Yeah, it's probably bullshit.
I mean, I'm interested to know like what their names were before they were sort of relocated by the government, because I assume that Bob and Helen Parr aren't their actual names.
Yeah, true. Actually, that's really interesting. Yeah, would have been. I'm sure there's an Easter egg in there somewhere, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Okay, so did you have any notes on near the end of the film before I talk about the very end?
One of my favorite scenes in the film. Honey, where's my super suit? It's so iconic. We haven't even mentioned that line in Iconic Lines. It's so good.
It's because like it's just underwhelming to me. Like, I hear that quoted all the time, and then when I saw it unfold, I was like, I don't really know where how this became iconic.
Fair enough. Yeah, because Frozen is barely in it, like you said, so I'm surprised that he got as much like notoriety in that. But no, like generally in terms of ending, nothing really, mate.
Right. So after the very grisly death of Syndrome, we sort of go into the denouement of 3 months later, and we see that Dash is finally competing in a competitive running race. And I mean, to me, athletes are meant to like use only their natural abilities, so I don't really see how there's an issue with Dash using his powers.
True, yeah, I can get why from the family's perspective, like they want to keep their identities hidden, but yeah, I suppose so. Like it is sort of, it's a bit unfair, like them asking him to slow down, I suppose, as well, because then it makes like the other kids look bad as well from that point of view, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, like he's using his natural ability to run like any other athlete. It's just that he happens to be able to run faster. That should be celebrated, not hidden.
That's a good point, man. I think you've nailed it there, definitely.
I mean, I kind of get the difference, like, sort of throughout like Superman lore, he's always like, Dad, I want to play football, and his dad's like, you can't play football, and it becomes like a huge like series arc on Smallville. It's kind of embarrassing, and I kind of get that because he's an alien fighting human, like not fighting, but he's an alien competing with humans, and they can't really compare. But if you're just a human that happened to be born with accelerated speed, use it.
True. Like he's not overly fast. He is pretty fast, but he's not Flash.
I mean, there's scenes where I could swear that like Bob was running as fast as him. Like whenever Bob's running in front of the robot, like in the very first action scene against it, like I swear he's running faster than Dash.
Yeah, that's that super strength in the legs, my friend.
Oh yeah, that's actually a fair point. I'm sure he's quite. I mean, yeah. I get you. I see you. I agree.
But no, in terms of like the ending, I sort of sad they killed off Syndrome because I think he had so much potential for the second film. We will get into the second film for sure in one of the later renditions of the series, but I don't know. I just think Syndrome has so much potential for like further movies in this. I'm sure you've seen the theories about like potential. Well, this is before the second film had come out, but like of Dash and Syndrome working together or something like that. I thought that would have been really interesting.
Yeah, I'd heard stuff like that, and then there was also one sort of aspiration, like when it was in development, that people wanted to see, it set 20 years later and Jack be the villain. I would have loved that more than what we saw. Like, I mean, we'll touch on it when we actually review it, but I mean, I found The Incredibles 2 to be a bit of a letdown. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I thought it was very underwhelming.
Still good. 15 years in the making, or 14 years in the making, though.
Yeah.
Was it 14 or 15 years? This came out in 2004, right?
Was it last year or 2018? Maybe it's 2018.
It was 2018. It was 2018 because I remember signing a petition and I was like, give it to us. Because do you remember the World Cup delayed The Incredibles 2 and Ant-Man and the Wasp, but only for the UK?
Yeah, I remember that.
That pissed me off to no end.
Good times. Yeah.
I think it was by like a full month or something, and I was sort of worried that the internet would be rife with spoilers, but thankfully I was able to circumvent those.
Yeah. I actually I am actually looking forward to reviewing The Incredibles 2 because it's one of those films where like I think there's a lot of talking points about missed marks and stuff and potential letdowns, but we will get into it one day, definitely.
Yeah, cool. So do you have anything final to say, or do you want to jump into ratings?
I have nothing else really to say. Just this film, like I know I like criticized it, so I have, but no, I honestly really enjoy it. Like there's so much great stuff in there, like just like Dash running in water, Mr. Incredible, like catching a cork, Frozone, the glory days. There's just so much good stuff in there.
I'm sorry, like just you list all of those things and then like Mr. Incredible catching a cork, like that just sounds like the shittest action set piece.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right actually. But I'm just happy to head on into ratings, buddy. What would you give out, buddy? Oh, what would you give out of 10?
Yeah, R.I.P. I'm gonna come back in 20 years and destroy you. Well, yeah, it's probably of the ones that we've reviewed up to this point. It's the most fun I've had watching it. And this is probably the one that I have the most nostalgia for because I probably saw it at my youngest, other than Finding Nemo, which I didn't actually see to completion until a few weeks ago. So it's an incredibly fun ride. It has so many layers, and I loved watching it with a deeper, more adult perspective because it has so much going for it, adult-wise. You know, like it really goes beyond a kid's film and sort of pushes the envelope of what's acceptable. And I really respect it for that. So despite being a bit of a negative Nelly and throwing out some criticisms, I'm gonna have to give it a. Ooh, is it a 9 or a 9.5?
Oh,
I think it's damn near perfect. I'm gonna have to give it a 9.5.
Yeah, good man, love it. No, I thought your points are really insightful there, bro. To be honest, I completely agree with everything you've said. As you said, like we both have nostalgia for this film completely, and I actually think it's one of the Pixar films that could work as well in live action. You know, we've seen the jokes about this being the best Fantastic Four film, and I think this could work as a live action completely, man.
Oh, I definitely think it could have worked as a live action, but like I sort of reject people saying that it's a Fantastic Four film because I think the dynamics are completely different.
Oh, certainly
and, like,
it's
yeah, it's not just that like the powers are given to different people. Like it just feels fundamentally different to me. So I don't really see the comparison that people make.
Yeah, no, I can 100% see where you're coming from there, bro. But as we both said, fantastic film, so many layers. I'd probably give it a 10. Love it.
Wow.
Love it, man.
Wow.
So the next film, is it Cars?
It is Cars. I think we've been quite generous with our scores these days.
We have, man. We have. I don't think we've went apart from A Bug's Life. I don't think we've went below an 8 or 9 recently.
Yeah, what did I give to A Bug's Life? Like 5 or something?
I think you gave it a 5 or 6. Yeah.
I think I was a bit too generous. Like because like watching Cars made me think maybe I was too generous to A Bug's Life because I feel like, you know, Cars isn't. I think Cars is better, but also I think it deserves probably somewhere in that range of scores. So I think that I probably should have given A Bug's Life 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I'll give my retroactive score. I'll give Bug's Life a 3.5.
But I'll time code Callum's retroactive Bug's Life review in here.
Sure.
Cars is one of those films where I think out of every Pixar film, it has the most potential, but it just misses the mark completely. No,
I'm sorry. I give you the most disgusted look I've ever done.
I saw. No, let me explain, because I actually think the whole racing plot line, the whole first 20 minutes of the racing is close to flawless for me. I actually love that, but it's just I think it gets derailed in the Radiator Springs hour of the film.
Yeah. Doesn't Cars 3 sort of take advantage of more of the racing side? Isn't it him sort of like as a retiree kind of coming back?
Yeah, because completely, bro. Because out of every Pixar film, and this might be because Cars has had a trilogy and most films haven't, but like Lightning McQueen does go through quite a character development, and it does sort of mimic that of like real life athletes, like we see in loads of sports, like the rookies come in and do really well, but then like by the end of Cars 3, like he's retiring. So it is really interesting, and this might be my nostalgia speaking because this is the first film I've ever seen. I saw as a kid. So I have a lot of nostalgia here, but I'm just happy to go by your plot points, bro. So I'm really interested to see what you have to say about this.
Well, just for a bit of context, I just wanted to have a bit of a rant in this film that like they dedicated 2 hours of film to this. You know, they like say Monsters Inc., which is, you know, a nearly perfect film, is only an hour, you know, an hour and 25 minutes, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And this is 2 hours.
I know.
It's like, who thought that was a good idea?
Doesn't it? It feels it.
Well, I mean, it feels simultaneously like there's no development of plot or characters, but that it just meanders on for forever.
Yeah.
I had to watch it in 2 sections. because I just couldn't tolerate sitting through it in one sitting.
Was this your first viewing of it, Callum?
No, I've seen it maybe once or twice before, but this is probably my most favorable viewing. I did not dislike it as much as I anticipated, which I'm sure you'll be happy to hear.
Cool.
So I imagine that you're familiar with the PIXAR theory that sort of links every movie together.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk. Yeah, I was hoping we could get into this throughout the PIXAR series because it is really interesting, isn't it?
I would say that of the interconnectivity, I would say that for Cars, it's probably the most interesting link in the chain. Would you mind if I talked a little bit about that?
Go for it.
So from my vague and unresearched understanding, I believe that the idea is that there was a nuclear fallout on Earth, and that this is a post-apocalyptic wasteland where humans mutated into sort of these like weird like feeble creatures, and we had to build armor, like metal armor around us to protect ourselves. And then suddenly, over like thousands or millions of years of evolution, we basically turned into cars, and then cars that had sentience. Have you seen like the diagrams that people have drawn up of like the car, like the empty husk of a car, and then like this weird like flesh being that's just inside it?
Yeah, I think that's really, it's unusual, but it is interesting. Like, we've seen so many theories out there, like the car adopts the personality of its last human or whatever, or last driver. So I think it's really interesting, man, that you bring that up.
I would love it if that was true, and it really makes sense to me, because like I think people have tried to dispute it by saying, oh well, in this universe, like they're talking about the 1950s and stuff, but that's just 1950 like common era, like so like the Earth right now is like 14 billion years old, and we're apparently only in 2020, so it's very possible that they just started at zero again at some point.
Yeah, completely.
Millions of years down the track,
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So earlier I made brief mention of the fact that sometimes a celebrity voice just doesn't work out, and in this film, I just really don't think that Owen Wilson's voice fits the character design.
Really?
Yeah. Aww. It's not that I hate his voice. I don't like him as a person, and I won't get into it. But did I tell you why I don't like Owen Wilson?
I think so. Was it
just do a bit of research for yourself, lads.
Yeah, we'll not get into it, but I have an idea of what it's about.
Yeah. So like, how do you feel about that?
See, I actually really enjoy his voice, and I think it works because like when I was young, I used to watch a lot of like Top Gear and stuff, and sometimes they would do like NASCAR episodes. And like when you see NASCAR, like a lot of it is sort of like Texas and like southern states orientated, like that's where all the NASCAR drivers are from. So to get like an actor from Texas, sort of one of the southern states, I thought it worked, but I can understand why you wouldn't think it would work, because like he is sort of presented as like young and hip and cool, but he has a voice of like a 40-year-old man in this. So I do 100% know where you're coming from.
I just don't want to hear like "wow" coming out of a car. Like I just don't want it. It's not for me.
That was good. That was good impression. I like that. Wow.
I'm good with like one word. I couldn't like read you a sentence in his voice. But like I'm like ka-chow. Like I don't know. I don't know. Like that's just the shittest catchphrase I've ever heard in my life, and he says it so many times.
But yeah, like there is some, to be fair to the film, there are some good songs in here. Real Gone by Sheryl Crow, big fan of that. Life is a Highway by Rascal Flatts, I think he's called. Flat. Top notch. I love that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I think the soundtrack's really great, but I thought the score was kind of odd. I mean, it's sort of like a Western kind of thing to match sort of the desert setting. But it just wasn't. It didn't have the Pixar magic that say Toy Story or Monsters Inc. had.
Fair enough.
So, in sort of the opening, as you said, in this sort of more impressive part of the film, the opening 20 minutes, we see the ferocious battle for the Piston Cup, and I really can't. I can't picture anything other than like what Mater thinks about when someone says Piston Cup. Like I couldn't take it serious. I knew the joke was coming, so I couldn't take it seriously whenever anybody said it. I mean, I'm not a child, but like I was.
Yeah, I absolutely detest Mater in this film.
Oh, mate, we'll get into it. But like, so there's a character named Chick who is voiced by Michael Keaton, and he will do nothing. Nothing will stop him from winning. So he sort of like throughout the film, his like it seems weird. Like his whole personality is just nudging cars so that they have an accident. But I mean, you know, in this universe, the car is their body. So that seems to me like pushing someone during an Olympic race. Like you're not allowed to do that.
You should
like,
be disqualified, right?
Yeah, how is that allowed? Like they let him do that. Like it's not even an amateur race. Like this is like the big leagues, and they're just letting him crash other cars.
I know. It doesn't even like. I know this is a bit of a weird point. It doesn't even sound like Michael Keaton to me at all.
No, like to be fair, I tuned out a lot throughout this film. So like I was on my phone and I was on the Wikipedia because I was trying to figure out who was voicing certain characters. And when I read that, I was like, really? And then I paid attention to the next scene, and it still sounded nothing like him to me.
I know, man. It is crazy. But like, this is in a similar point to what you mentioned about like Chick Hicks cheating and stuff. I thought it was curious, like what makes each car faster than the other? Because like in NASCAR and Formula One, I'm pretty sure all the cars have a maximum same speed, so it's dependent on driver skill to win the race rather than speed. So like I don't know, I thought it was curious that like Lightning McQueen's clearly like faster than everyone else.
Yeah, it's kind of baffling just because they sort of don't explain the anatomy of the cars, but I guess they work like the human body. So like sort of the more you race, the stronger your quote unquote heart is, which I guess is your engine.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you're more physically fit, having done more racing, you know, you just build up your skill and ability. So it's the skill of the car rather than the driver, because obviously there isn't one.
That's actually really insightful, man.
It's not insightful. This is all horse shit.
No, but
like, this is all me making up like bullshit to justify like a terrible film.
No, I like where you're coming from. I like that. Pixar should get your number and call you up because that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. So sort of in that vein, like obviously whenever they do the pit stops, they replace the tires of the car. And you know, they seem to have like tires to spare, but I mean in this world, like obviously Pixar didn't make this with the intention to adhere to like the Pixar theory that we talked about, because you know that would actually explain some of this. It would mean that like, you know, the wheels aren't actually connected to the inside of the car, which is where the sentience is. But sort of this film never actually explains what part of the car is sentient, because surely if you can just get rid of your tires and replace them, it shouldn't be that easy. Like they should also be alive. If you're a car that's alive, why are your tires manufactured?
No, you're right, mate, because we see like Doc Hudson as well, like get really injured in a race that sort of nearly kills him, but then like he seems to get like a whole new like is it chassis is the word for the inside of a car, or like outside?
Oh yeah, the outside of the car is the chassis.
The chassis, like it seems like you can replace everything apart from like, I'd imagine if you like wrecked the windscreen, which is their eyes and stuff, you'd probably die. But how, I don't know, it's never explained how cars can die in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the Pixar theory makes much more sense than, you know, the kind of like lack of explanation that Pixar decides to give.
Yeah.
So, you know, in my mind, they die like, you know, if, I mean, I guess they have a time limit. I don't know.
Yeah. Or if they run out of fuel or something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe they have a mileage count. Like when they get to like 1 million miles, they just die.
Yeah, imagine that'd be quite funny.
But like, I'm just curious. Like, are they born or are they built? Like, I don't really understand.
Like, do any other, like we see in this film, like Sally says he's got the horsepower to Lightning McQueen, so horses must exist in this universe. So.
It's just such a garbage universe. It's like, put some consideration. Like if you can't make your audience understand what you're talking about, don't make the film.
Yeah, no, completely, man. But like the Pixar theory, I suppose it is a theory. Like it's never been confirmed by the studio, has it?
Oh no, definitely. Like this is just fan speculation, but it still makes more sense to me than saying like, you
Yeah.
know, the horses never existed, or the, you know, they're built instead of born. Because I mean, it's not like the cars have genitals.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, that's why I kind of like to imagine that, you know, like, you know, when the camera goes away and like we're no longer seeing, like, you know, because really the universe only exists while we're watching.
Yeah.
uh so like, you know, surely in a scene that we don't see, you know, they could just be like slipping out of their chassis and like just, you know, being those weird fleshy beings and you know, making car babies.
Ka-chow.
uh
Oh man, imagine. We really go in depth here in the Movie Mates channel, don't we?
yeah, it's thorough analysis.
Any other points about the opening sort of race, buddy?
I mean, well, sort of. I have a reaction to, like, you know, right after the race when you know, all of his fans come to congratulate him, and he sort of he you know, he does a presentation for Rusties in front of all these rusty cars, and like only Pixar would be the kind of studio to create a film where they have like rusty cars as an analogy for racism. He's
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I mean, it's either like it's either that he's sort of like, it's either a racial allegory where he doesn't want to hang out with the rusty cars because, you know, that's sort of like it could be classism, it could be racism,
Mhm.
or they it could be some sort of Bible analogy where, you know, they're sort of like the lepers of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
universe where, you know, rust spreads or something.
Mhm.
But, you know, Lightning McQueen seems to have an aversion of some sort to that community.
Yeah, that's actually really. Yeah, I know I've said
Yeah,
insightful, but that is
yeah. Don't say
insightful.
insightful about anything to do with this film. This film is nothing. It's like,
But I do really feel bad for the Rusties guys because like they it was like revealed that they were like the first company to like adopt McQueen when he was a rookie and stuff. And regardless of whether McQueen wins in California, it would make more commercials like it would make more commercial sense for Dynaco to give him the sponsorship anyway. Like they're not going to give sponsorship to Chick Hicks because he's a cheat and also like he's a pretty old fashioned car compared to Lightning.
I mean, I guess that Dynaco only backs winners of the Piston Cup, and I guess
Yeah.
none of them had won it after that race. So
Yeah.
I guess they only back past winners, you know, in future races.
Yeah,
So
I
the
suppose so.
Rusties was like his stepping stone, but then he decided to stay with them even when he
Yeah,
was
I
offered
do like that.
Dynaco.
I do like because I do like the Rusties guys, and yeah, it sort of does make you question like the I suppose their being and their existence because like what one of their mouths just falls off with the rust. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and they have tongues, Matthew. What is this universe?
Yeah, isn't it the tongue that like helps McQueen get
They have,
first? Isn't it
yeah.
like
When did you last watch this film? Did you watch it recently?
I watched it yesterday, and I do recall like doesn't he like stick his tongue out
Yeah,
like
his tongue is what gets him over the finish line,
I love
and
that.
it's kind of just disgusting to watch. So right after the race, you know, he's on the way to California, and he's in the back of the big truck, and he actually loses his his employee. But like, how is he inside of another
He's
car if it's
inside Mac.
alive? Is that like, yeah, is that like climbing up a human's butthole? Like, I just don't understand the anatomy of these cars.
Yeah, and then he receives a phone call from Jeremy Clarkson in the middle.
Yeah, no, that's why I was on the Wikipedia looking up who that voice was, because I did not immediately recognize him. And he's apparently only in the UK version.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, I actually really liked Jeremy Clarkson as Harv. I thought that was a nice little nod. I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe John Oliver.
It does
I
sound
just couldn't pick
similar,
the
actually.
voice.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but what I don't understand is, like, why is it important that he needs to find Mac? Like, you know, is it just because he's a race car, but he's not actually, like, he can't actually just drive normally,
Yeah, maybe it's like
drive to California himself.
yeah. I suppose it's sort of some yeah, like it would be unwise for like a Formula One car to like drive to like the racetrack, the next race, I suppose. And it's sort of, but like it is weird. Like yeah, like Mac isn't like, he could probably make his way to California by himself, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like he seems to use all of his bodily energy, you know, remaking Route 66, and then he still was able, you know, to win. Well, he would have won the Piston Cup if he chose to.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like he would have expelled that much energy if he just made it to California himself.
Yeah. Like we see sort of in the film, like there's a widespread media panic, you know, Lightning McQueen is missing. And I wanted to ask, was that Arnold Schwarzenegger, or was that a cameo of a voice actor pretending to be Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, I have no idea. It sounded like someone doing an Arnold impression, and it didn't actually sound like him to me.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, but I thought if it was him, I love that. But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So you wanted to get on to the pinnacle of this film, Mater.
Yeah.
I've written Mater equals Jar Jar Binks.
I think he's worse. Because I actually quite like Jar Jar. I really dislike Mater.
He's one of the worst characters that Pixar's ever produced. And the most worrying description of Cars 2 I've heard is that Mater is the main character.
I shit you not, right? Lightning McQueen is maybe 15-20 minutes of screen time. It's a Mater
in the
film.
Sequel.
Yeah. I cannot wait for you to see it.
Like, we're covering that in the next episode. That sounds like a nightmare.
Buddy, honestly, I can get why kids would like Mater, and if you like Mater as an adult, fine. But I honestly, I'm not a fan. Is it Larry the Cable Guy, right?
Yes.
Is he like what's he famous for again? Apart from this, is he like an American TV show star or something?
I think he's maybe a reality TV show star. Like he feels like I think he's famous for being like a trucker. Like I think he's, you know, kind of like a wheeler dealer type of guy.
Yeah, one of those ice road truckers, as they say, I suppose.
Yeah, like, you know, that's in those kind of reality shows like Fast and Loud and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I actually quite like that.
I think he's to my knowledge, he's like that kind of vibe. And yeah, I have no idea why he's in this film. I don't know why they didn't just like strengthen the romance by having her act as his new best friend. Yeah. I don't know why they had to have Mater. Yeah, like it just seems like the worst thing that they've tried to do.
It's a really unusual decision, bro, to be honest. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Like, do you like the Sally and Lightning romance in this?
Oh, not whatsoever. Like, I don't like anything in this film. I just tolerate some of it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't like the Sally romance at all. Like, I feel like it comes out of nowhere, and it's completely undeveloped. Like, it just seems that everything in this film's undeveloped. You know, it starts with a race, it ends with a race, and then in the middle of it, it's just nothing happens.
Yeah, and
then things magically come together at the end. But it did not connect with me whatsoever. How did you feel about the romance?
I thought it was quite sweet, because I think Sally brings out a different shell to Lightning and stuff, and I don't know, I can see why people would think it would be underdeveloped. 100%, yeah, definitely. But no, I do like it, because I don't know who voices Sally, but she does a great job, and I actually do like the characters in Radiator Springs apart from Mater. Like I generally think there are some interesting personalities and stuff. Like, you can tell each car's personality, I think, quite well. And Doc Hudson is generally, I think, has quite a good backstory as well. So I quite like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I always thought that he was the villain of the film. I thought they were sort of. Yeah. I mean, you know, it wouldn't have necessarily been better, but, you know, it was kind of, I just got more of a villainous vibe from him. I thought it was going to be like a bit of a switcheroo, kind of like, you know, as seen in like Up or something. Yeah. You know, sort of like the older generation of what they aspire to be turns out to be evil.
Yeah, like this film is quite unusual in the sense that, like, it doesn't necessarily have an antagonist. You know, well, sort of it does in like Chick Hicks as well, but nothing real. Like, do you know what I mean? Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wrote that as well, and I think it's detrimental to the film. Like I think that you sort of need conflict for the plot to
I agree.
go along better. Like I think even having, like, obviously, you know, say in Toy Story 2, the prospector is kind of just doing what's best for him and like for the rest of the toys. And like he's kind of just being a bit disregarding of like Woody's feelings and like the need to go back home. So if we had sort of had that with Doc, like, you know, not letting Lightning go home because he needs to at least have the road finished, or like he would have brought in tourism and he's just trying to keep him in the town, I think even that would have elevated it marginally.
Yeah, completely, dude, completely. And I suppose like it is the villain sort of role is developed more in Cars 2 and Cars 3. It's actually done quite well in Cars 3, I think. But yeah, no, I do agree with you, man. I think the absence of a villain is quite detrimental to the plot for sure, for sure.
So the whole point of him being in Radiator Springs is to repair the road, and his first attempt at it, they're very angry about it. You know, they say it looks like shit, basically. But I mean, what do they expect? Like, they gave him like an incredibly imprecise, just like tar dumping truck. Like, I don't understand how they thought he would have done a good job.
Yeah, like
I don't understand how they thought he would have done a good job. Like, just get him to pay for the repairs. Don't make him do it.
I know. Like, the film just does get bogged down in the whole middle section, especially when like there's like 20 minutes of him trying to fix a road and stuff. You know, I would have just.
This is 2 hours long.
I know.
This is 2 hours long.
There are some good bits about Radiator Springs. I quite like when he gets like a new makeover and stuff. But like, I don't know. I would have much preferred a film about just racing in general, buddy. Really.
I mean, is that sort of touched in Cars 3? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Cars 3 does sort of get bogged down in like sort of Lightning adopts the Doc Hudson rule somewhat, but there is things about Cars 3 that I detest as well, for sure. This is probably my favorite one in the trilogy, actually. But,
oh no!
Yeah,
no.
I honestly cannot wait. I think your Cars 2 rants are gonna be awesome. I can't wait.
But saying this is the best film in the trilogy is like the grimmest review of the other ones you could give. Like that just sounds like a nightmare. So as we start to see the Sally and Lightning romance develop, she takes him on a view of the city, and we see an old-timey montage of like how the town used to be, and it's set to like really sad music, and I think it was really trying to replicate like, you know, say the Jesse flashback of Toy Story 2. Yeah. So it's trying to bring up the same raw emotion that did, but feels spectacularly, because I felt nothing. I felt nothing.
Yeah, I do 100% agree with you, buddy. I think they did try to harken back to that sort of Jesse flashback as well. I do think it is quite sad what happened to Radiator Springs, the whole bypass and stuff, and that sort of shit does, I guess, happen to some rural American towns and stuff. And one of the things I can praise the film for is that it's not so often that you see like an animated film or live action film set in like a rural town in America, like Radiator Springs. Obviously, it's not real, but the roots.
Yeah, the reason they're not set there is because it's fucking boring.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. And also,
yeah,
like,
sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay. Like, honestly, like, it is boring. It is really boring. Like, and yeah, like I do know what you mean. It definitely did try to copy that, I suppose, didn't it?
Yeah, but like to you know, agree with your point. Like often, you know, when people say, "Oh, this is revolutionary. It's never happened before. This is the first time we're doing it." There's a reason.
Yeah.
Because other people didn't want to do it because it's not a good idea. So I have no more notes on this film because I honestly, there's nothing noteworthy that happens after that point. It's just such a dull experience for me. I'm good to go by anything you have.
Like,
I mean, you know, we sort of see that like Lightning's learned a lesson by the end because, you know, he chooses, you know, graciousness over glory. But I mean, honestly, I think after his efforts, you know, he wasn't that big of a dick. I think he sort of deserved to win the Piston Cup. Like, no one seemed to give a shit when Chick passed the finish line, so I probably would have just, you know, gotten to the finish line, then circled back and helped out. What was it? The
Weathers.
He was the king.
The king, yeah. But
yeah, I probably would have just won it and
yeah.
then circled back.
Like, to be honest, I know he is quite arrogant at the start of the film, but like, if you'd imagine, I'm sure like he is really successful at such a young age. Most people would be like quite like that. So I guess I can't be too critical on him for that, and I do like his character development, how he like transcends from like being arrogant to like more gracious, as you said. And when he goes back to help the king, I do quite like that. But yeah, as you said, mate, that it is quite a dull film, and it's definitely not. It's definitely not up there with Pixar's greatest ones, is it?
Yeah, I mean it's not the worst because as you said, the other two Cars films are worse. I've heard very bad things about The Good Dinosaur,
I haven't seen that one
and
actually.
and A Bug's Life is abysmal.
It
So,
is.
do you have any further notes, or are you good to go on to ratings?
I'm happy to go into ratings, buddy. What would you give it out of 10?
So, as I said, it is incredibly dull. The middle meanders very much, but there are some highlights. Some of the voice acting I really respect. The animation is obviously incredible as always.
Mm-hmm.
But the plot is so dull, and just the lack of explanation around like the origin of the Cars film, like the Cars universe. Like that they were probably like, oh yeah, we'll make it cool. Like we don't need to explain this. They really do. I
Yeah.
mean, say for example, like I know you haven't seen Onward, but like it sort of gives, it's heavy in exposition, but it is useful information where they sort of like tell you all about the context of the universe. And I feel like I would have had more attention to give to the film if they had just done a little bit of explanation, because I wouldn't have just been thinking in my mind like, oh, how do they reproduce? Like
Yeah.
I was just having
Yeah.
so many weird questions in my head that had me question my sanity.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad as A Bug's Life, and you say it's not as bad as the rest of the Cars films. So I have to leave a certain sort of lack of standard for those. So I'm gonna give this film it's between a 4.5 and a 5.
Okay.
Uh, I'm gonna give it a 4. Like because like say if this was made in live action, we would purely just be talking about like like not we wouldn't be talking about how it looks. We'd be talking about like the performances and the plot and special effects and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like with Pixar animated films, you can see the effort that went into the animation. So I always feel bad for giving it such a low score
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, it clearly took so much effort to make and like so much love was put into it, but it just plot wise came out terrible. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5,
Four and
but
a
I
half.
feel guilty about it.
No, I respect all your points, mate, and I think you've completely hit the nail on the head in terms of like the lack of clarity in the universe and stuff, and the dullness of the middle section. So I don't. For me, I do. It's probably the nostalgia speaking for me. I'd probably give it a 7, just because.
My God.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
mean,
know.
nostalgia is usually for things that you enjoy. Like I don't know how you enjoyed this as a kid.
I really enjoy the racing scenes. I think they're really really well done, and I actually really like the variety of camera shots. Sometimes it follows the wheel of the car and stuff, but it's probably my favorite Cars film. So this will definitely be the highest rating I will give a Cars film. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I respect all your points, but 100% see where you're coming from, 100%. But
Okay, so
the third and final film, then,
yeah.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
Today, our third and final film, we were talking Ratatouille,
So good, isn't it?
the pinnacle of Pixar animation. I was worried right before I started it that I wasn't gonna like it as much as I liked it as a child. I mean, I say a child, like I watched it maybe for the last time 3 years ago or so,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been watching it, a bunch of times throughout my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it as much as I did back then.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, mate. Like, I know one of your favorite films of all time is Chef, and this is sort of another like
Yes.
this is sort of another like culinary film as well. So I have a couple questions. Like, is this film sort of similar to that? And to like, do you think this film
I'm sorry,
is better?
Matthew. Are you saying that you haven't seen Chef?
I haven't seen Chef, dude. We will have to review that 100%. I haven't seen it, mate. But no, like, where does this like? How does it compare to Chef? Because I know you love that film as well.
I mean, plot wise, it is similar. It's sort of like a down on their luck character, going back and impressing people with their skills, but in a different context. So instead of him being a rat in the sewer cooking for his family, he's cooking in an actual restaurant. And sort of Jon Favreau, is initially a restaurateur and then opens a food truck. So there are certain layers that are similar. So yeah, let's just say that Jon Favreau stole this.
When was Chef 2014?
Chef was yes, I believe it was 2014, and this was 2007. So there's quite a big gap. Yeah, I would say Ratatouille is a huge influence on Chef.
Well, that's good though, because both, but you like both, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of involves like one, like a food critic ruining the career of a well-respected chef, and then the food speaking for itself and changing the critic's mind. Like I do see very similar layers, and I'd say this is one of my favorite culinary films. I would say the only other ones that I've seen are Chef and Burnt, starring Bradley Cooper, which is very poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Oh, that's pity. But I am really glad you like this film, because as you said, that this is probably like up there with like the pinnacle of Pixar, isn't it, really?
Oh, 100%. I would say that this maintains its quality for me, and I do think it's still my favorite Pixar film.
Yeah, definitely. This one alone probably made me buy Disney Plus, to be honest, just to review it again, because it is that good. And it actually has a surprisingly like really great message and stuff. And like it doesn't feel like a kid's film at all for me, like at all. It actually feels like an animated film for like adults. It honestly does.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Did you have any contextual points, or did you want to just jump into the plot of the film?
I'm just happy to go by your notes on the plot of the film, dude, or if you have any contextual points, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to leap into the plot. So we're introduced to Remy, who is sort of the... Well, we find out that he's sort of the poison tester for his clan of rats. And Remy's dad is a character that I really resonated with. He really reminded me of me. He's just a cynical old guy, and he's the one that has to convince Remy that they're not thieves, and I really don't think that they are thieves.
No, they're not. They're not,
because at that point they're not stealing food. But Remy has like this sort of like backwards justification where he's like, oh yeah, like I can, because they're eating garbage, so they're not stealing from anyone. But Remy will literally steal food from an old woman, and because he's cooked it, he decides that it's his now. Like I don't understand that way of thinking, where he can be so critical of someone for not stealing, but then he can justify his own theft.
I don't know whether it's because like, I don't know. I don't think even when Remy and the rats do steal food from the old woman and Gusteau's restaurant, I don't think that's stealing, because for all it's worth, they're not stealing that much, and also it's the animal kingdom. Like those rats gotta eat, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't think eating garbage is theft. I do think whenever like they went into Gusteau's restaurant, I think that was theft. But it's understandable theft.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I saw a rat eating my food, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. Like they're just after the food. But I mean, now that we sort of learn the sentience of the animals in this universe, I think there's more malicious intent behind that.
Yeah, like you said previously in like our Toy Story review, as well as I think it was Finding Nemo as well. Like you sort of felt you were always more cautious about how you treat your toys and animals and stuff. So like, was this film sort of similar in a similar vein to that, where like because you see the sentience of the rats and stuff, like you sort of adopted that same sort of philosophy?
Well, to be honest, I've never actually seen a rat or a mouse in person. But if I did, I would. But if I were to, I would trap it humanely and release it. I'm very anti-animal murder. I've never killed a spider. I always capture and release. And I would do the same with any animal that came into my house.
There was a spider in our car yesterday, and I was terrified. I honestly was.
I have zero fear of spiders, so I'm always the catcher. But like people just yell at you to smush it. But I take a bit more bit more care.
Yeah, I like to release
How do you sort out the bath situation or the shower situation?
So I got rid of the shower and got like, we have like a sort of like a Yankee candle lid. So you know the Yankee candle, like the lid, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like, scooped up on that, got like the edge of a razor and pushed it into the glass bowl, and then just placed it out until the windowsill.
Chucked it out the window, you mean?
No, I didn't like.
Sorry. Placed it onto a windowsill.
Yeah, no, I can't confirm no spiders were harmed in that.
Well, that's lovely.
But this film actually, I never really understood like the humanity's, not necessarily fear of rats, but like disgust of rats, because like it's the animal kingdom, you know. I get perhaps like aesthetically they're not the most appealing creatures. Like a dog is aesthetically appealing because they're like, dogs are cute generally, but like I don't know. Do you ever understand that? Like rats get a hard time, I think. So do mice.
Yeah, I suppose it's just because they're carriers of disease.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, any animal can do that if it's, you know, domesticated. So I think it's just a stigma, but I don't think it's ever going to be sorted.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I do agree, because like this film, I suppose, is quite dark as well, because it deals with like humanity's disgust of rats, with like the rat poisoning and stuff. But no, it is interesting, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do have a certain right to fear rats, because I mean, we see the whole clan of rats in that old lady's house at the beginning of the movie.
That would be terrifying.
And they've definitely ruined her life. Like, she definitely had a heart attack right after.
I was about to say, if she hasn't had one already, because like she is like blasting shotgun holes in that roof and all, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be deaf. She's probably dead. And even if by some miracle neither of those, like, she has PTSD for life.
Yeah. For sure, bro, for sure. That's actually quite a tense scene, isn't it, as well? It's a good opening.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, it's almost like a warlike infiltration, because I mean, she just puts on like a gas mask and like tries to like blow the shit out of it. Like, she completely destroys her own house.
Yeah, I know, and no, the animation in this film, as you said, as you put perfectly, man, it is really, it does. This is where the PIXAR animation for me, like, it does go up a level. It really is.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what my next point is. Like, when I first saw like the rats running through the grass, I don't know, for some reason I just had sort of like you know, like a terrible flashback to A Bug's Life.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind I was comparing the two of those films. Like, just in your mind right now, I compare like, you know, the hairiness of the rats, like how intricate the animation is, to just like the smoothness of Flick's face in A Bug's Life.
I know.
Like, it's one of the most stark differences. No, I just can't imagine that they're made by the same people.
I know, dude, completely. And you know, I even think the water animation in this film, like what water, I suppose, is quite hard to animate, you know, but that PIXAR nailed it here as well. And you know, it's not so, and this is sort of a similar point about I had with Finding Nemo, like about it being somewhat of an Australian film. It's so unusual that you see a movie set in France, especially an animated movie, and it is animated so well, and it's so refreshing. I absolutely love that, man. It wouldn't feel, for me, it wouldn't feel the same if it was filmed in like, if the film was set in America. It just wouldn't feel the same.
But then, just because, like, obviously it's an American film, like, it's, you know, produced by Americans, so obviously the characters need to be speaking English. Fair enough. But they didn't even have the balls to make all of the characters that they claim are French to have French accents. Like, Linguini says that he's French, but he has an American accent. Like, I get it, you have to have them speaking English. Like, it's an American made film. You know, they need to, you know, they're going to speak English. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you know, at least if you're going to set a film in France, have all the characters that claim to be French have French accents.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, that's the least you can do.
It's a very similar vein to like war films where you see like soldiers and Nazi
the Germans speaking in English to each other.
Exactly. You've nailed it there, man. And like, I actually, Linguini does sort of remind me, it seemed like they characterized him as somewhat of like a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo character.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, a lovable dope.
He's got the like the chin stubble as well. I saw, so I thought it was quite similar. Yeah,
but like there's one shot where they just look like razor blades. Like, they look so sharp. like they look like they would stab you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sight of a rat in a kitchen actually makes me queasy. It was a horrible visual, especially like not to fully jump ahead, but in sort of the final act of the film when there's maybe hundreds of rats cooking the meals. It made me want to throw up. It was horrific.
Yeah, like I know I've said I know I said I don't understand people's disgust of rats, but in that case, in like a sanitary environment, like if a rat was in McDonald's or something, like you would be a bit nauseous for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I saw a dog cooking my soup, I'd be equally grossed out.
Yeah.
Like it is just the idea of an animal in a sanitary situation.
Yeah, I know, for sure, man, for sure. And it's weird that this film sort of, I actually really like the cooking scenes. We've sort of mentioned in our Toy Story podcast about like the most satisfying scene of all time being like the Woody being fixed. Do you remember that? Yeah. I think in this film, the cooking scenes could be more satisfying for me. This film just always makes me hungry, and I just love that because it's so well animated.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. To talk more character-wise, we have the introduction of Linguini, the illegitimate son of Gusteau.
Gusteau, yeah.
I almost said Gaston. On Beauty and the Beast, but the illegitimate son of Gusteau, and he befriends Remy after being told to kill him, and there's a moment where he decides where to put Remy on his body, and he sort of like goes to put him in his underpants.
Yeah.
And my brother told me as we were watching this that like someone has fully animated a dick onto that scene where like he just like pulls his trousers out and there's just a full like schlong.
Oh, Linguini! Apparently they're Mr. Incredible underpants. I saw on a video.
Yeah, they have like the Incredible logo, which I think is a great detail.
Oh yeah, big time.
I assume that like adds to the idea that they are in the same universe because there would be merchandise of those characters if they were in culture.
That's the thing I wanted to ask you, mate, because I'm really interested to hear your interpretation of this, because this film, it's never really made clear what year it's set in. So for Linguini to have like Incredibles merch, I think this film could easily be set in like the 70s or 80s, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I mean, Gusteau seems like sort of like an old classic style chef, like sort of Julia Childs vibe.
Yeah, completely.
Which would have been like 60s, 70s. So yeah, this like the events of the movie could easily be 70s or 80s.
Yeah, the only thing that is maybe modern about it is what's her name? Colette's moped, which I suppose mopeds they existed in the 60s, I suppose, right? So yeah, it could be in the 60s.
Yeah, easily. And obviously Linguini decides to put Remy on his head, and there's a lot of biting involved, so I mean he 100% has rabies.
Yeah, that's like a dark undertone of the film. Like at the end, it's just him like with rabies. Yeah, completely, man, completely.
So after we find out that Linguini is Gusteau's illegitimate son, we also find out that means that he has the ability to, to go against the will that Gusteau left, which the head chef of the restaurant is obviously scared about because, if it doesn't go through, he gets to keep the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So he launches a plan to sort of discredit Linguini, but I don't really understand why he needs Linguini to fail. Like he just needs to keep him in the restaurant and just keep him happy and like keep him out of the spotlight so that like the time runs out. Like there was only 1 month left until he officially got the restaurant, so I don't see why he didn't just like appease Linguini and just make him not suspicious.
Yeah, like completely, man. You're hit the nail on the head there. Like head chef Skinner, he's one of those characters where I'm not supposed to feel sorry for him, but I sort of feel sorry for him because like he goes to take the blame for Linguini's soup, and also like he must think he's going crazy because every time like he thinks he sees Linguini interacting with a rat, like Linguini is either like I've dropped my keys or something like that. But I don't feel bad for Skinner necessarily because he is definitely an antagonist of the film for sure, and he's quite selfish. But I do agree with you. You could have just waited a month, I suppose, right?
I mean, like, what his real course of action should have been was to just burn the letter from Linguini's mom, keep Linguini there, not tell him about Gusto, and then don't get a DNA test, because then even in your mind you can tell yourself, oh, he wasn't, like,
Yeah.
It was so easy, but he literally like put all of this top secret information in a file labeled Gusto's will, and then Remy's just able to steal it.
Yeah, I know, man, I know, but no, you're definitely right, bro. You're definitely right. One thing I sort of actually no, I'm just happy to go by your notes, man. I'll fill in when I can.
Yeah, I mean, we are introduced to arguably the villain of the piece, Ego, who is responsible for Gusto's death in a way by giving him such a tragically bad review of his restaurant. But it's sort of in that I don't really understand why people would respect Ego's opinion, because it seems that he's just negative about every restaurant. So I don't know. I feel like, I mean, there's a lot about criticism and reviews, and the actual level of appropriateness to reviewing something, and it made me think about us reviewing movies. Like, I talk shit about movies a lot. I mean, it's not like I can make a movie, so like I don't really have the right to comment, and like who cares what I have to say. But
okay, I think people care. I think people care.
I don't know. This movie made me think about that.
Did it make you question your philosophy on that? Yeah.
Yeah, but then I sort of came to the realization that we love a lot of movies, and we talk about a lot of movies positively. So it balances out when we talk negatively about films. But it just seems that Ego only talks negatively about restaurants, so I don't really see why anyone would respect his opinion. It just seemed like people would say, "Oh, well, you just hate everything."
Yeah, like every new review, it's probably a negative review. So why read it in that case? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did Gusto kill himself, or did he have a heart attack? I just completely missed that point when I was watching it yesterday.
They just said that he died shortly after the bad review, so I guess it's one of those like Padme situations where they like died of a broken heart.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Gusto's one of those characters. He's not really like, he's never in the film. He's always like, a figment of Remy's imagination, but I'm weirdly connected to him. Like, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, you keep coincidentally like mentioning something as soon as I have it in my notes.
Really?
And I really wanted to talk to you about the Gusto idea, because based on Coco, where the main character, I think it's Miguel, visits the spirit world, and based on Soul, where we find out that souls exist, I think that Gusto actually was there. I don't think he was a figment of Remy's imagination.
That's really cool. I really like that, because if the Pixar theory is confirmed to be correct, that does make sense, and that parallelism to Coco for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah. I'm wondering, why is it that when anyone gets a bit of fame, like they just become a douche? Like instantly, Linguini like gets one photo shoot and he just doesn't care about anyone else.
I know. Because you do sort of feel bad for Remy in that case, don't you? Because he sort of like neglects him and sort of assumes a relationship with Colette, and also like he is quite arrogant, I suppose. I actually really like Colette. I think she was, I can't remember what cook she was modeled after. I'll Google it. But apparently she was like what's the word? Sort of designed and molded over a specific chef in real life.
Right. Yeah. In sort of that instance, I don't really like Remy or Linguini, because I don't like the arrogance of Linguini, but I also don't like Remy sort of being pissed at the fact that Linguini's taking credit, because previously he had tried to reveal that he was partners with Remy to Colette, and Remy didn't want that. So like, why does he expect Linguini to announce it to the entire French media?
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And that's the sort of thing, like Linguini, I don't know if I want to say this, but like Linguini might be one of my favorite Pixar characters. But there are some things where like you can criticize him for sure, and Remy in that case as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Even after Linguini like mocks Remy, sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Okay, I've written even after Linguini like kicks Remy out for being an asshole, like Remy looks at himself and he's kind of like, oh yeah, I am an asshole, but then he still tells his family like, oh yeah, just go in for whatever food when you need it. Like he's gonna ruin Linguini's business.
Linguini's business, it's such a weird operation because like you see there's like back alley drug deals for vegetables and stuff, and there's also like one of the most, and this is my biggest criticism for the film. Like there's a customer goes, you know, I've already had the soup, ask the chef what's new and I'll have that. Isn't there like a menu for a reason? Like,
yeah, like you shouldn't expect a chef to improvise.
Yeah, like surprise me.
You go to a restaurant for that. Like that wasn't even a critic that was there. That was just a customer. And he comes expecting for something special. It's like there's nothing special about you. You shouldn't expect anything special back.
I know, man. I know. Like, do you? One question I have for you about the film was like, do you feel bad for Remy when Linguini sort of neglects him for his relationship with Colette?
No, not at all, really. I mean, you know, I like, you know, that's like being jealous of your friend getting a girlfriend. I mean, it is exactly that. I mean, that's just selfish, really. I mean, it's not like he wasn't spending any less time with Remy. They were still cooking together every day. They had the same relationship. I don't see what he's getting jealous about.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a lovely apartment Linguini has. How's he affording that?
Oh, stunning. I mean, yeah, because they sort of say that Gusto has like Gusto's restaurant has lost all respect that it had. So I mean, I doubt that they're raking in hard cash. Yeah. So like, yeah, I don't know where he's putting that. I guess probably from maybe he's making like some back alley drug deals himself, but with real nose candy.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of mushrooms, it's magic mushrooms, if you know what I mean.
Oh, classic.
Any other concluding points, dude?
Well, yeah. So towards the end of the film, Chef Skinner successfully captures Remy, but he chooses not to kill him, which I'm sort of very surprised by. Because I mean, he was very willing to let Linguini kill him earlier, and now that he realizes that that's the source of Linguini's success, I don't see why he didn't kill Remy when he had the chance.
Yeah, I know. Like, that is curious because you do sort of forget about like Skinner's sort of head chef Skinner's like evil plans and stuff. Like, I suppose that's not really explained. You know, does Remy have some sort of like magic, like ability to have increased senses, or is it just like natural that he's just naturally?
He's like Daredevil.
Daredevil, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But do you think so, or not really?
I don't know. Maybe this is set in the world of The Incredibles, and he was given super senses.
Maybe he was like, yeah, one of like the tests before the humans or something. That'll be cool.
That sounds interesting to me.
That sounds interesting. Yeah. Yeah, but like Skinner's one of those characters. I think he's really interesting. It's never really clear about what his relationship with Gusto is. I assume he was like a sous chef before Gusto, but like I thought it was interesting because, you know, I think it would have been cool if it was like Gusto's brother or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and it was like his closest heir, which would have been his son that gets to take it. Yeah, I think if there had been maybe higher stakes for him to like hide stuff, like rather than just he gets the restaurant. Because I mean, as head chef, like, you know, currently Gusto didn't have any family, so all the money's going to him anyway. So like I don't really see what he has to lose. Like as long as he remains the head chef, like I don't really see why he has to have like a nefarious plan.
Definitely, dude. Definitely, you've nailed it there completely.
Yeah. So, you know, to finally kick off the title of the film, they make Ratatouille for Ego, and he finally tastes that little bit of Ratatouille. And it's one of the most wholesome character turnarounds I've ever seen.
It really
is. Because he seems like such a knobhead, and then he's just completely humbled in that moment and has such love and appreciation for the person who prepared the meal.
It really does. And the fact that it brings him back to his childhood and that flashback, you know, he is generally a good guy, but maybe his life as a critic has like consumed him. So he's like just negative about everything. So I think you absolutely, like, you hit it spot on there with your phrase of like, he got humbled. Like that's what really happened, mate, and completely you're right in that. And like I think it's Peter O'Toole who voices Anton Ego, and he is just he's just such a he's got such a, he can present like anger and like fear, but like he's so like soft. Do you get me? Like, he's such a talented voice actor, I think.
I do understand, yeah. And I really think that flashback moment is really similar in the emotion that it gives me to like the the opening 8 minutes of Up, but I never hear that. I never hear that sort of correlation being talked about. People say, oh, the opening of Up is the best film moment in all of film history. But I mean, I think that this makes me feel this same amount of emotion, honestly.
Oh yeah, like the opening of Up isn't actually, for me personally, it's not even the most emotional moment in Up, never mind Pixar. I think I think that this scene in the film definitely rivals that. It's not, you're all right, mate, it is quite criminally underrated, this scene, isn't it? It's not talked about as much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about Up because I do not enjoy it.
Really? That's really interesting. I'm looking for, is that the next episode of Pixar?
Yeah, we're talking about Up, Cars 2, and
WALL-E?
something else. Oh no, it is WALL-E. I hate that film so much. It's so shit. I mean, it's not as bad as Cars or A Bug's Life. I mean, it's maybe as dull as Cars. We'll talk about it next week.
About it.
So, as we see, the Ego and Remy decide to go in on a restaurant together, and it's a great ending. But I think in reality, no one not a large amount of people would be able to get past the fact that it's a rat cooking for them. Yeah. I really don't think they would have as many customers as they get.
Yo, completely, bro, completely. I do sort of like I do love the semi-realistic ending that Gusto has to inevitably close because Skinner rats out on them. Well, rats out on them, no pun intended. But like, I thought it was nice that Ego did invest in the new restaurant with Remy because he is generally a nice guy. But like, I do agree. I don't think like the restaurant probably wouldn't exist because like it probably wouldn't get past health and safety checks. But no,
I was gonna say like with what logic does Gusto's have to close down, but they get to open one that's specifically about rats?
Yeah, I know. I do like the name of the restaurant, La Ratatouille. I like that. Like, why do you think Ego lost his job? Do you think he just lost respect as a critic?
Yeah, I mean, people just cease to take him seriously, I guess. But I mean, as a critic, you're self-employed. You can put your review anywhere. I don't really see how you can be fired.
Yeah, no, true. One thing I do like about Ego is like his coffin-shaped room. I love that, man. So good.
And as my brother pointed out, his typewriter was also in the shape of a skull.
Was it? I didn't notice that, man.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Jake just sees many layers in a film.
I love that about him. Love that about him. Any other concluding points?
So yes, I have a dark statistic.
Oh no.
The average lifespan of a rat is between 1 and 2 years. So that business ain't going to be successful for long.
Did you Google that statistic?
I Googled it because I was like, that rat is going to be dead so quick. I mean, so like even if he is 0 years old, the most he's getting is 2 years. So that restaurant's shutting down in 6 months, I say.
It's not a wise business investment, is it, Callum? It really isn't.
No, I wouldn't say, because you're basically investing all your money into this one talented rat. And as soon as he's dead, you're screwed.
The only thing is, if Remy could somehow teach Linguini how to cook, but that's it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how following a recipe is that difficult, quite honestly. I don't understand how, some people can't cook to save their lives, and I don't really understand how you can't make at least a tolerable meal if you follow a recipe.
Yeah,
sometimes I've followed a bad recipe and then it's come out shit, but if you follow a good recipe, I don't really see how you can fail.
Yeah, I think following recipe. I think no matter how talented a cook, I think following recipes is always good practice generally.
Yeah, I mean that seems sort of disrespected. In sort of Hell's Kitchen and stuff, you're expected to know it off your head, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when you look down at a recipe, Gordon Ramsay calls you fucking fuckface or something, yeah, which I don't think that's really fair.
No, it's not.
I mean, surely if you want the food to be the best of the ability, surely following Gordon's recipe to the letter is exactly what he wants.
Yeah, no, completely, bro, completely. But like, no, I do see where you're coming from, because it is sort of like disrespected, I suppose, looking at recipes. And there are, as you said, there are some dodgy ones out there. But like, you know, I don't cook. I don't really cook that often. But like, I'd always like follow a recipe, because you know, some recipes actually surprise you. Like some recipes just have good ideas. I know, like for anyone who's listening, right? Callum is like, I don't think I've ever tried any of your recipe, but you're a very talented baker, I've been told, and I've seen it.
Who have you been told by that?
Yeah, I've seen your crepes. I've seen your crepes.
You've seen my crepes. Wow. I rarely make any food, but when I do, I enjoy it.
I just saw
my
your
dad's
face.
the real.
Just what I was explaining. That, sorry, but
well, because I was like, Matthew, you haven't tried anything I've made, and like it all looks like garbage, but like it usually tastes okay. Like I made a lemon drizzle cake last year for my mum's birthday, and I did not enjoy it because I don't like lemon. But apparently it tasted nice. So
I don't doubt it, mate.
I'm two thumbs up.
What were you gonna say?
I'll bake you some brownies when we're done with quarantine.
I'd love that, mate. I'd love that. That'd be fun.
Well, I've concluded all of my points. Did you have anything further?
No, nothing at all. Apart from like, you know, in some films where it's like a anthropomorphized animal interacting with a human, you sort of see like they can understand each other. But I do respect this film's refreshing nature, that you know they can't actually understand each other. I thought it was quite refreshing. You like it sort of removes any simplicity from that. So I actually really enjoyed that. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, but also, you know, practicality wise, I don't think they can really build that strong a friendship off the back of that lack of communication.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
did you want to just jump into ratings?
Let's do it, buddy. What would you give it out of 10?
Well, I think, you know, of course there's some dumb moments in any film, and often this is used for comedic effect. Like I think when, you know, they have everything, all the information and documents conveniently in one folder, I think that's for comedic effect. So I think anything that's possibly, you know, able to be criticized, this film wants you to criticize it because it's smart enough to know that the characters aren't perfect people or rats. Yeah. So I really think that it is very close to a perfect film. I'm gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10.
Awesome, bro. I was really interested in your points. Like they were so interesting, mate, and I think you completely hit the nail on the head with everything you said. I completely agree, and I'd give it a 10 as well. It's just something about France and Paris in particular. You know, the city of romance. I love that. I just completely love that, and it just seems like such a nice place to live. I've never been, but I'd love to go, man.
It was underwhelming for me.
Oh, really?
But that was probably just because we got lost. I mean, a lot of people say if you want to see a city, get lost. You know, so
true.
So that you're not seeing just the touristy points. But I mean, if you're only there for, you know, a day or two, like you want to hit up the tourist points.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Yeah, I think that this is probably the best animated film that they made, as in the animation is the best that we'd seen to this point. In your opinion, how have they improved on the animation since then, do you think?
Oh yeah, completely, mate, completely. Like I'm trying to think of a really, I think Coco's really, really good animation wise. From what I've seen of The Good Dinosaur, in terms of like, I haven't actually seen it, but like the trailers and stuff, it looks phenomenal. Toy Story 4 though is probably the pinnacle for me. It was so well done animation. But this film's like nothing to be ashamed about. Like this film's top notch animation wise.
Yeah, I am not looking forward to watching The Good Dinosaur.
I'm praying that it's
like I'm praying that it's like an hour long and it's not like a 2 hour you know, experience like Cars.
But listen, man, did you want to conclude the episode, and what films are we going to be talking about next in terms of Pixar?
In terms of Pixar, we're talking WALL-E, Up, and Cars 2.
Awesome, yeah. Well, that'll be an interesting one for sure, because I'm sure we have a lot to say on those films.
I don't like any of those films, so that will not be a fun time for me.
It'll be a funny one, though. There are some funny moments in each of those, so.
Sure. I mean, I haven't seen Cars 2 yet, but I can just imagine myself hating it.
Well, listen, do you want me to wrap up, or?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, listen, thanks to everyone who's listened to this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to comment your thoughts on these films down below. Let us know what you thought of them. Email us at moviematespodcast@gmail.com for any questions or episode ideas. And hope you guys are all safe and well. Hope your families are all safe and well also. So thanks, guys. Take care. Thank you, Callum, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.